All right, let's take you to another story now that we are monitoring. The ANC's National Executive Committee kicks off its three-day Lekgotla in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg this morning. The meeting will be attended by party representatives from across the country, deployed as ministers, deputy ministers, premiers, as well as executive mayors. They'll seek to put in place a working plan to implement the 6 priorities outlined in the January 8th statement. The gathering is expected to be a crucial one ahead of this year's local government elections. SABC News political reporter Natasha Phiri is at that Lekgotla for us. Natasha, good morning to you. Those priorities that were mentioned by the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa at the January 8th statement, that's set to take centre stage. I saw just a few moments ago as well the ANC's Paul Mashatile as well as Poppy Ramathuba also arriving there. Poppy Ramathuba, fresh off the backdrop of devastation in her province, part also to perhaps be discussed about interventions. Very crucially also ahead of the local government elections, with so much that is taking place, the ANC would need to be seen to be tackling some of these issues together with its partners in the Government of National Unity, of course, at a government level.
Well, thank you so much, Crystal. I think you've summed it up, quite well. All these issues are meant to be actually reflected. Just to take you quickly through these 6 priorities before we go to the Premier of Limpopo, Dr. Poppy Ramathuba, it's fixing local government. This is where the ANC really will be focusing and sharpening, their eyes on. As you know, Crystal, this is an election year, and the ANC actually wants to win it big. If I'll just take you through the numbers, I think in 2021, the ANC attained 45.49%, down from 53% in 2016. Of course, because they want to focus so much on local government, they've released a 10-action plan, and this was evident through, the local council meeting that they had last year, where they unveiled, their strategy and their plan of action, also introducing what is called the ANC Local Government Barometer, and that is to assess the performance of, ANC-led municipalities. I think if I get my numbers right, I think 122 municipalities that are still ANC run. Crisaldo, the ANC also wants to speed up on economic transformation, win the war against crime and corruption. They also want to build a South Africa that belongs through the national dialogue. They want to make organizational renewal irreversible. And of course, the last, building a better Africa and better world. You mentioned something very important, that we come and we speak to the Premier of Limpopo against the backdrop of those floods that have caused devastation, not only in Limpopo, but in Mpumalanga, that have cost the lives of people. And of course, we do understand that billions of rands will be needed to repair the infrastructure in the province. And this is, as I bring in our guest Premier, thank you so much for joining us at SABC News. I think first and foremost, what is the total tally of the people that have lost their lives in Limpopo? Has that missing boy, 5-year-old boy, been found?
The latest statistics that we have is that we are now at 20 in terms of those that we were able to discover, but we are still in search of 4, if I'm not mistaken, that unfortunately we have not been able to retrieve their remains. The 2 teenagers, the 15 and 17 years old, we have been able to retrieve their remains. The 3 that Somalian nationals, unfortunately, we have not been able to retrieve. So we'll keep you updated as we continue to do the search. But what I can also update is that we have then also reinforced our divers and all the rescue team. We have received a team from Gauteng and from Pretoria. We are really appreciating, and I think the work continues.
Let's just also talk about how much money is going to be needed. I know it's billions of rands that will be needed to repair the infrastructure. The last time I heard you speak on TV, correct me if I'm wrong, over 400 roads in the province have been damaged, bridges as well. Just talk us through that.
Yes, indeed, it's to be specific, when we were doing our own assessment, 439 roads with a radius of 600 kilometers. And when we did our assessment by Wednesday, where we can. It's just a provisional assessment because we have not yet, for instance, agriculture, we have not even been able to access some of those farms so that we can assess to what extent is the damage. So then we were talking about 7.9 billion as the amount that will be needed so far for us to be able to rebuild Limpopo and make it to be what it used to be. When you look at human settlement, after the roads, human settlement, it's badly affected. But one of the stories, you'll remember when we were together at the Mbaula village, outside Giani, where all the human settlements, the units, the houses that people built for themselves have been swept away. You saw that it was like a ground, a sport field ground, because there were no longer any single house remain. So now when we were doing proper assessment, guess what? Only 2 RDP houses remain standing, which then tells you that the current way of constructing our infrastructure, it's taking into cognizance the fact that we should be able to build infrastructure that is resilient, that is alive to the reality of climate change. It means the materials to those RDP houses, it's what we need even moving forward. So we are saying the same formula that human settlement is currently using, as you would have had even the Minister of Human Settlement having assessed them, to say we need to use the same formula for our roads, for our bridges, no more building of low-lying bridges, because it's not really assisting us when we have these floods. That's why many of these people have been swept away. It's because of these low-lying bridges.
Premier, let's talk about, local government and, the various municipalities' strength, for lack of better words, or preparedness actually to deal with such disasters. Are we well equipped to actually deal with such disasters? And perhaps your early warning systems within these municipalities, were municipalities caught off guard perhaps?
I don't think we can say municipalities were caught off guard. The reality of the matter is that the current capacities that we're having in our municipalities, our town planning, and how, like I've said, our infrastructure, it was never built with the understanding that one day we might find ourselves in a situation where we need to deal with this current flooding. The early warning signs, the South African Weather Services keep on updating us, and we're working closely with them. But the issue is that until such time we have a proper collaborations with the community themselves, because when we visit some of the villages, you would hear that the traditional leaders will say, we want to work with municipalities when we allocate stands or when we designate an area as residential. Then while we are waiting for those formal processes, communities out of themselves, sometimes they would go and agree, get one induna, then they agree on saying, because we've spent a lot of time without rain, they don't believe that that area is a wetland, that area is uninhabitable. But then they will go and allocate stands. And when you want them to say this particular area is going to flood, to remove somebody from their house or from their home, they want to see it raining, they want to see it flooding. So that is the challenge that we need to do. And unfortunately, this is not the time for us to be blaming them because we are in a disaster. We felt, let's deal with the disaster. post this disaster, we need to start doing an audit in all our municipalities to say which one is the low-lying areas, which ones are the wetland. But moving forward, we are not going to allow any new residential area where in municipality, the human settlement, Coxstar, together with traditional leaders, would not have agreed. And this must be informed by the experts, people who are qualified to say this can be demarcated as an area and designate as an area for human settlement. So if we are able to work together, we will be able to achieve that. Unfortunately, the current situation is that you can't blame people. As leadership, you must lead. And it is your responsibility to talk to the community, to make them understand that whatever decision you are taking, you are not imposing on them, but you are doing it for their own interest and their own benefits.
I guess a lot of lessons need to be learned from this. Studio is telling me to rap, but I have to ask this, and I know I'm going to be in trouble with your team and Botoni Rachweni. But I mean, your provincial conference is coming up. A lot of people have said, listen, they think that you are capable to actually lead them. You know, the SACP decision also puts you between a rock and a hard place. Where do your loyalties lie between the SACP and the ANC?
No, it's not about where our loyalty lies. Our loyalty lies in making sure that one day we are able to build a national democratic society. And currently, one is fortunate that the African National Congress has given me an opportunity through my deployment as a Premier of Limpopo to make sure that the people of Limpopo, the people of South Africa, we contribute towards the national democratic revolution. And this is the revolution that is shared by all alliance partners. And I don't know where the confusion is. Where I am now, I'm currently leading within the ANC collective as a PWC Provincial Working Committee and PEC member, and also fortunate deployed strategically so. So I'm currently pushing this agenda. There's no confusion there. It's only when we have really built that society which we want, that democratic, that non-sexist, that non-racial society, when everyone, people have got jobs, we fought unemployment and defeat poverty, where economy is thriving, everyone has got human settlement, everybody stays in a house that is resistant to climate change. You know, once we reach that, then we can start talking. We take you forward towards socialism.
Okay.
For now, we need the NDR.
Bobby Ramathuba, thank you so much. The Premier of Limpopo, Crisaldo, just reflecting on a number of issues. Of course, the floods that have devastated Limpopo province. She says over 7 billion rand is actually needed. And so far, in terms of fatalities, unfortunately, over 20 people have lost their lives, and they're still searching for those, who are still missing amidst those floods. Crisaldo, a lot to reflect on. Of course, we will be bringing you the ANC Secretary General's impromptu briefing once he arrives here at Birchwood. With that said, it's back to you in studio.
Natasha, thank you very much indeed. Live to us from Boksburg at the ANC Lekgotla taking place there. All right, we'll go back to Natasha as soon as the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, arrives there.